welcome to episode 13 of On Deck, a podcast about my tabletop journey as a board gamer in the Philippines. If it's your first time listening in, welcome to the show. My name is Glory and I host this podcast. I also run the hobby Instagram account, The Board Gamer PH, where I take pictures of and talk about my board game sessions with my friends. So before we start this episode, I just want to again remind everyone that I have a joint project with the good folks of Gaming Library. It's a video content called G Live Game Night, where we stream our game night every Tuesday night live from the Gaming Library headquarters. If you have not checked that out, please do so. You can check it out at Gaming Libraries and On Deck's Facebook accounts. And if you want to check out the playthrough of a specific game, you can also do so in YouTube. Just search G Live Game Night and they're all there. Well, it's taking me some time to edit and upload everything, but they'll all be there eventually. What else? Another announcement is that I will be again out of the country by the end of this month, December 2019, and I will be back with content maybe early January. I will be ending the year with my top 30 board games of all time. So that will be the last episode of this year. Okay? So short announcements lang. Now let's go to what have I been playing. So like last time, I will only be focusing on games that have really piqued my interest or I've really loved. Okay, because if I talk about each and every game that I've been playing, especially now with G Live Game Night, hindi matatapos yung episode, okay? So the first one is Coimbra. Well, Coimbra. It's pronounced as Coimbra. It's a city in Portugal. So Coimbra is a dice drafting set collection game for 2 to 4 players from Spiel. So Coimbra is apparently, yun nga, a city in Portugal. And in this game, players play as head of one of Coimbra's oldest houses, seeking to earn prestige by creating relationships with nearby monasteries or funding expeditions. This game is basically played over 4 rounds. On each round, a dice pool is created which the players draft. These dice act as workers that players place on the board, allowing them to obtain cards from that specific spot. The turn in which a player can get the cards laid down is determined by the value of the dice played. The cards allow the players to get a bonus and advance on a specific track, either income, military strength, movement, or points. The color of the dice drafted, on the other hand, also allows them to reap from that particular track. So you don't get to reap from each and every track every round. So aside from the cards, players can get points from the bonuses on the cities their pawns move to in the middle of the board. So may movement track then in the middle of the board. The players can also fund expeditions that allow them to earn more bonuses. So after the last income track, scores and bonuses are added and the player with the most points wins. I've said this in the previous episode, I like games where there are many ways to earn points. So medyo point salad. And this game gives me that. There is no one way to win the game. And this is what I found myself feeling while I was playing it. Should I go for cards? Should I go for the map on the board? Should I go for the expeditions? Should I work on increasing my tracks and getting the bonuses there? It depends. And you can't just have maybe one particular strategy because that pwedeng may kalaban ka dun and you might not get the most points out of that particular strategy. I also love how this game played with how a player decided what dice to draft. Picking a high dice allows you to get a card first from a particular spot, but the color you choose decides the income you earn on that round. Also, kapag mas malaki yung dice na kinuha mo, then mas marami kang kailangan ibayad to get that particular dice. Also, you'd think that there isn't a lot of player interaction here, but there is a ton. Going first matters because the cards are limited, and I found myself thinking about my plans B, C, and D in case my opponents decide to screw with me. Kasi nilang beses kong ginawa sa game na to na, bakit mo kinuha yung card na yon? So I really enjoy the game. I love that feeling of excitement, even though it can get punishing once your plans are foiled by your opponents. but it's easier to bounce back than you'd think. So I can't wait to get this on the table once again. Definitely going to play this with Blue, and I'll check how it plays with 2 players. The next game is Tan Caravan. Tan Caravan is a set collection game for 2 to 4 players from Blue Orange Games. In this game, players are trying to build their caravans with the best type of goods. So on each turn, players have an option of either buying goods from the market to place in their hand or fill the common caravan. For the market, the players will have money to spend depending on the amount on the card placed in the wallet or the purse. As for the caravan, once it's full, the player, starting from the player who filled it up, will take turns getting the same type of cards from the caravan and adding them to their tableau. Medyo Jaipur-ish. Cards on the tableau will be scored at the end of the game, and that's it. So there are special cards like the Merchant and the Princess, which scores your biggest set, Thieves that let you steal from other players, and Rats that forces you to get rid of something from your tableau. Once all cards are gone from the market and the caravan, the players score their tableaus and the player with the most points wins. I must say that I was very surprised with this game. I think it's a hidden gem. I really enjoy set collection games like Splendor and Ticket to Ride, and this is definitely simpler than both of those games since there is nothing else but set collection. Kasi in Ticket to Ride, you're trying to complete a route. In Splendor, there's an engine building thing going on, right? Here, it's just set collection. You want to get stuff from your hand to the caravan to your tableau, and that's it. Even the special cards only give you an overall goal in the collecting or a way to interact with other players, but it's really just set collection. What's interesting about this game, though, is that buying the cards from the market does not necessarily mean that you get these cards on your tableau, because even if you are the person to place those cards on the caravan, you do not necessarily get first pick once the caravan gets full. It depends who filled up the caravan. So, you want to be the player that fills up the caravan so you get first dibs. So aside from the set collection on your tableau, you also need to keep in mind what you're trying to collect in your hand so that when the opportunity arises for you to complete the caravan, you do it and get the first dibs. So this game reminds me of Jaipur a lot, a game that I really do enjoy. I've only tried it in its full player count, and I'm really very interested to try it in 2-player mode to see if it does not feel as tight, because at 4 players, it felt a tad too random. And it was like I was never getting the cards I wanted. So pwede kang malasin talaga. So that's Tan Caravan. Next is Bargain Quest. Bargain Quest is a card drafting hand management game for 2 to 6 players from Renegade Games. In this game, you are all basically playing as store owners trying to sell certain items to fantasy fighters who are about to go on a quest to fight a monster. So every round, you draft cards representing the items you have for sale. You pick one to choose as your display, and the player with the best card on display gets to pick the fighter to visit their store. You don't necessarily pick the strongest fighter, you pick the one with the most money to spend on your store. You then proceed to sell your fighter items that can increase or decrease their stats to fight the monster. After selling them items, they go on the quest. If they're able to wound the monster, you gain a victory point. If they're able to defend, meaning they don't die, you gain a victory point. And all the money spent in your store also acts as victory points. At the end of 3 rounds, the player with the most points wins. There are also some special upgrades that you can buy for your store that lets you keep cards from round to round, or hire workers that can do special bonuses actions for your store, like give discounts to the fighters, because as much as possible you want to sell them stuff. So if you're finding it hard to imagine this game, just think of your typical market or tiangge. You're basically trying to lure people into your store with your display and making them buy stuff they may or may not need. At first, I found it weird because I thought I did not need to be invested on my shoppers and whether they would win or not, but I found that the right mixture of trying to make your heroes win and at the same time getting all of their money with items that they may or may not need is the best way to win this game. I also like that there were random powers given to the fighters before they are tested, which can either make or break their ability to damage or defend against the monster. Because I love the feeling when you feel like your fighter isn't going to make it at nagsasorry ka na sorry, hindi ka mananalo dito with my items. and yet somehow they survive. And that's really cool. I must also mention that you can't just take any fighter to enter your store. The fighter you pick must match the icons on your display and the items in your hand. So you can't just sell them stuff. It has to match. So there's also instances when you're the last one to pick and it just so happens that the only fighter left can't purchase anything from your store. So overall, I really like this game, and thinking about it now makes me want to play it again. The next game is Heaven and Ale. Heaven and Ale is an economic tile placement game for 2 to 4 players from Eggert Spiel. In this game, players are playing as monks trying to brew the best ale. So in this game, a central board is laid out in the middle wherein players can go on specific spots and get whatever is in that spot. Items found in the spot represent ingredients of the ale. These hexes have a value to them, and it's relevant depending on where you put them on your personal board. If you've placed the hex on the light side of the board, you have to pay double the value, but if you place it on the dark side, you only have to pay the value printed on the hex. This is important because hexes are activated during the game, and then the hexes on the dark side are activated. They give you money, but when the hexes on the light side are activated, you get to advance on the ingredient rack that many spaces. So hexes are activated in 3 ways. First, scoring a particular number or resource on your board, and note that you can only do this once per resource. Scoring a monk, which has hexes around it, and scoring a fence once it is completely surrounded by hexes. So at the end of the game, each players will check their conversion ratio dictated by the placement of their brewmaster on the track. And depending on this ratio, they will then proceed to move their least advanced ingredient peg forward and move their most advanced ingredient peg backwards, that many spaces, and once no conversion can be made, the score of the player will be dictated with their last peg. It's a bit complicated without visuals, but I've never seen this kind of scoring mechanism before. And then the player with the most points wins. So first of all, I played this game with Bench, a GL curator, and Ivan and Andy from Cardboard Buzz, who are the newest members of the GL curators. Shout out to Ivan for teaching me the game. It was quick and very, very understandable with the way he explained it. Very different from how I explained it just now. So what I would like to highlight from this game is that I felt the same feeling after playing Castles of Burgundy. And I bought the game instantly after playing it. Plus points pa na nasa bargain bin siya ng gaming library right now. I was on the fence about this game for the longest time because of the reviews, which all said the game was bland. But after Castles of Burgundy, I realized that the theme and aesthetics, while I appreciate it very much, does not trump gameplay for me. And I can easily enjoy a game that has a pasted-on theme if it tickles my brain, and this game tickles my brain very much. First of all, when do I score my hexes? Since I can only score a particular resource or number once, do I score now so that I can move, or do I wait until I build up to something nice? And also, if I score now, I may lose the chance to get a hex I really want. This is aggravated by the fact that money is a very difficult resource in this game, and you need to balance it out because you need to score to get money, but you need the proper hexes to score better. And then there is the fence mechanism wherein if you score a higher amount fence, you get to activate more surrounding hexes, but if you score a lower amount, you get to move your brewmaster more and increase your conversion ratio. So this will pay off in the final scoring. I really love this push and pull in games where I feel like I can suffer now and then this will pay off in the end. So I must mention that these GL curators are a bunch of Euro gamers, and I'm being exposed to so many Euro games lately, which I love. In this game, Heaven and Ale is such a beautiful hidden gem that I cannot wait to share to more people. I've actually played this with Blue and she liked it also, although I crushed her. The next game is a newer game, which is one of the most hyped games coming out of Gen Con. It's Point Salad. Point Salad is a card drafting set collection game for 2 to 6 players from AEG. This game is probably, yes, one of the most hyped games in Gen Con 2019, and after playing a few games of it, I get why. Point Salad isn't a very hard game in terms of complexity, but it's quite deep. Basically, there are a set of cards with a printed vegetable on one side, cabbage, tomato, onion, carrots, lettuce, and bell pepper. and a scoring point on the other side. On a player's turn, he or she has the option to either get 1 point card or get 2 vegetables. It doesn't need to be the same. The point cards can either give you points if you have the most of a particular set of vegetables, the fewest of a particular set of vegetables, points per set of at least 3, or points per complete set of vegetables. I have not seen all the point cards, but it's basically like this. As a free action, you can also opt to turn your point card into its vegetable side, but you can only do this once per turn. And you can't do it vice versa. So you can't turn your vegetable back to its point card. So you score your set at the end of the game and the player with the most points wins. I mentioned that this game is not hard in terms of complexity, but it is deep. You basically try to score the maximum number of points for whatever set you already have. But you can also set early goals for you by getting point cards early in the game. I have not seen this strategy win, the latter one. I should also mention that once a vegetable is obtained from the row of the point cards, the point card turns to its vegetable side and this cannot be flipped back to its point side. So you have to think carefully when getting a point card because once you see it and you try to build up to it, it might not even be there anymore when your turn comes around. This feeling reminds me of how I feel whenever I get a new route card for Ticket to Ride, and I realize that I've either completed the route already or it will only take me 1 to 2 moves to complete the route. So you need to have a good balance of setting goals for you early on and jumping on an opportunity once you see that the point card is beneficial to you or will be beneficial to you. So we played multiple games of Point Salad back to back because it's so quick to play and it has the potential of being so addicting. I really enjoyed it and I'm glad I picked it up in the US because it might get here next year pa. So if you're looking for a really nice filler that won't reset your brain, I highly recommend Point Salad. So from the newest game in this What Have I Been Playing segment, we now go to probably the oldest game in this What Have I Been Playing segment. The next game is Catan. Catan is a dice rolling trading game for 3 to 4 players from Mayfair Games. In this game, it is not most points wins. Players are trying to get to a particular score, 10, and be the first one to do so. So the game is composed of a hexagonal board divided into hexagonal areas. On each turn, players roll the 2 dice and the result will determine the hexagonal areas that will generate resources, whether it's clay, wood, or wheat, or sheep. And using these resources, the players will try to build settlements worth 1 point each, cities worth 2 points each, and roads that are not worth points, but each city or settlement must be adjacent to one of the player's roads. So during a turn, the player who rolled the dice may or may not get any resources, but all players who have a settlement or city in the hexagonal area triggered will get what that area produces. Another thing to consider is that when the number 7 is rolled, which is apparently the most probable number to be rolled when you roll 2d6 dice, the active player can take the robber and cover a hexagonal area which will not be able to produce any resource until the robber is transferred again. Players can also get some bonuses like largest army given by development cards and longest roads. These bonuses will transfer depending on who is the current largest or longest. The thing that's most interesting about this game is the trading element. Basically, when a player is trying to build a structure, they can ask other players to trade a resource they need for resources they are willing to give up. This solves the scenario wherein a player is not able to produce a particular resource. We've seen this actually in Big Bang Theory when Sheldon was trying to ask his friends for wood. So Catan has gotten some flack for being an old gateway game that has lost its luster. But from someone who has been playing games for around 5 years now and has never played Catan before, I must say that it stands up to the test of time. I actually prefer this game over Machikoro or Space Base, even though I really enjoy both of those games. This is just easier to teach in my opinion, and it's easier for new gamers to track the resources they get when something is rolled. The negotiation part, while probably the most fun part of the game, is not the only thing present in the game, and I think that's why I liked it. There was a time when I was leading in terms of points and I felt like my opponents actively did not want to trade with me to help me, but I could still mitigate it by collecting a particular resource available to me and trading this in with the bank for the resource I need. But you would want to negotiate because the exchange rate in the bank is steep and you need to trade a particular resource you can't mix and match. And you need to trade just one particular resource you can't mix and match. So the bank conversion is 4 resources to 1. So if you need 1 wood, for example, you need to trade 4 sheep. These two problems are not present when you trade with another player. You just need to convince them to trade with you. So overall, I really like my full play of Catan. I played this previously with 2 players, even though I know it wasn't meant to be played with 2. And I did not enjoy it that much. But my game with 3 players went by so fast, and it was a very enjoyable experience. I'm now seriously contemplating picking up my own copy to take out when I'm playing with new gamers, and especially new gamers who want a step up from Monopoly. But speaking from someone who has been playing games quite some time now, I think it's still very enjoyable, even with your gamer friends. I mean, if you haven't tried it, definitely give this one a try. So those are the games that I've been playing. Let's now go to the next segment, which is all about roll and write games. So like I said in the previous episode, I have fallen in love with the roll and write genre. For those not familiar with the genre, it's basically a game wherein you roll dice and write on a sheet of paper. Sometimes a different randomizing element is present, which is what you call a flip and write. Also, sometimes instead of writing on a sheet of paper, you place tokens. I tend not to think of these ones as roll and writes, but I do include flip and writes in the category. How you use the dice rolled and how you determine to fill out the sheet of paper is the main point of roll and write games. What I love about roll and write games is that you can have a deep game or a light game and the box size will barely change. So I've categorized roll and write games into several categories: abstract number games, spatial games, root games, and Euro light games. So the first one is abstract number games. This is probably what people think of when they hear of roll and write games. This is not surprising since the granddaddy of this genre is an abstract number game, Yahtzee. But because this is an abstract number game, the possibilities are endless in my opinion. I was first introduced to this through Quinto, which is, in my opinion, should be someone's launching point in this genre, if you are not averse to abstract number games. So in Quinto, players roll 3 dice, a purple, yellow, and orange one. They can also choose to just roll 1 or 2. The active player must then place the sum of the dice rolled in the row of one of the dice rolled. Okay, that's confusing because in your sheet of paper, you have 3 rows, okay? One is colored purple, one is colored yellow, and one is colored orange. So if you roll all 3 dice, you can put the sum in any of the rows, but you can only put it in one. But if you only roll 1 dice, you have to put that number in that particular row. You can't choose because you only rolled 1 dice. If I'm an active player, I can choose to re-roll once, and if I cannot place the number rolled, I mark an X and take a deduction at the end of the game. Because you can only place number in ascending order in one row and no numbers can repeat. Also, you cannot place repeating numbers in a column. If I'm not the active player, I can choose to take the number rolled or not. The game ends when a player has completed at least 2 rows or marked all of their 5 X's, and the players score their pads. If a player is able to complete 1 row, the score of that row is the rightmost number. But all uncompleted rows will score depending on the number of slots with a number. There are also bonuses if a player is able to complete a certain column. You deduct the number of X's and the player with the most points wins. So this is a good replacement to bingo, and it's very addicting. And since there is no deep thinking required, it's fun to play with a lot of players because you're rooting for the other players' roles as much as you're rooting for your own. So kasi kami kunwari ni Hans, mahilig kami sa high rewards. So gusto namin lagi ni-roll 3 dice. Because the highest that you can roll there is 6 times 3 is 18. Yeah, so, but if you only roll 2, for example, the highest number that you can roll is a 12. So, we always want the players to roll 3 dice. So, a step up from Quinto would probably be Ganshon Clever, where players roll 6 dice, and each dice allows them to mark a spot on their pad. But the way to mark them will have specific rules. So, for example, orange dice are straight up points and does not have to be ascending. But purple dice are also straight up points but has to be written in ascending order. So there are rules that you have to consider when placing the dice. So in each turn, the active player rolls all 6 dice and picks one to mark on their pad. All numbers lower than the one chosen is discarded, and the active player re-rolls the remaining until they get 3 dice that they have marked off. All non-active players will then choose from the dice discarded to use on their own sheets. What's fun and also a bit complicated about this game is that certain parts of the sheet will give the player bonuses once they've reached that slot. This can either give them more points or allow them to mark off different spots on their sheets. So at the end of the game, all players are trying to think of the best combo to mark off as many spots as possible without having to take more turns. At the end of a particular number of rounds, depending on the number of players, all scores are tallied and the player with the most points wins. Also, there are certain powers. In Ganshon Clever, there is a reroll power and also a +1 power, meaning you take one more dice, either from your discards or from those that you've gotten or from those that your opponents have gotten. So it's basically just +1 more turn because the dice that you get is a turn. So this game is very, very addicting. I find myself playing it more in the iPad or my iPhone because it's very quick and you're focused on your sheet. You don't have to wait around until your turn comes because you're playing solo. Because I find that at full player count of 4, it tends to drag on for a long time since all players are taking 3 rolls before you. And even if you take 1 dice per end of each player's turn, it's still not as satisfying when you take your turn, which is different for Quinto because each player is marking off just one number no matter whose turn it is. Other options for this type of roll and writes would be Hex Roller and Quicks, which I have not tried yet. This is probably my least preferred kind of roll and write, but I know it is the easiest way to get into it, and it's so fun when you're actually playing it. It's just not something I actively want to play with other players all the time. The next type of roll and write games are spatial roll and writes, which is probably my favorite because I love the act of writing the pattern on my sheet. I don't draw well, but there's still something that feels so satisfying with that act. The first one I've played of this game, of this genre, is Bricks. Bricks is basically Tetris in roll and write fashion. So the dice is used to determine the type of Tetris piece you need to write on your sheet. And just like in Tetris, you need to draw it at the bottommost part of your sheet. Once you complete a particular number of row, you gain a bonus. You also gain energy by touching certain parts of the sheet. Energy lets you change the direction of the Tetris shape or even lets you move it to go under a blank spot, just like in Tetris. At the end of the game, each row is scored, but only completed rows or rows with 8 or 9 slots filled score points. I love the implementation of Tetris in this game. You feel excited every time the dice is rolled because you want a particular kind of Tetris shape. At the same time, you want to plan your sheet in such a way that you can put whatever shape is rolled. Because if you cannot place it, you are out of the game. Well, no, you have bombs that scores you bonus points if you don't use them. So you can use them if you don't want to take a particular shape. This game is very successful when you teach it to new gamers because everyone born in the 80s to 90s is at least fairly familiar with Tetris. Next is Second Chance. Second Chance is basically patchwork made simple. Each turn, 2 pattern cards are shown, which are random polyomino pieces. And unlike in Bricks, you are not limited to Tetris pieces, and it does not have to go to a specific portion of your sheet. You just have to choose between the 2 pieces shown, and when you can successfully place it, you ask for a second chance, and a new card is drawn, just for you. If you still can't place the new pattern drawn, then you are out of the game. What's interesting in this game is that you know the cards that will be drawn, so you can actually plan your sheet in such a way that you know you'll be able to complete it, even when it seems like you box yourself in a tight spot. So while I prefer this game over Bricks because of the ability to draw different kinds of polyomino pieces, and it's not as frustrating when the shape you need is not rolled, there is barely any player interaction in this game, and you can even play it without ever looking at your opponent's sheet. So if you don't like games that do not have player interaction, you can go for Bricks instead. Last game in this bunch is King Domino Duel. King Domino Duel is basically King Domino in roll and write. So you roll 4 sets of dice and you draft 2 of them. Whatever you draft is the domino piece you need to place on your sheet. Like in King Domino, when placing a domino piece, at least one has to be matching to what's adjacent to it. So some of the patterns in the dice gives you crowns, which is the multiplier for endgame scoring. But if you take a pattern without a crown, this allows you to earn a mark for the bonuses. The first player to mark all spots for a particular bonus gets that bonus. The bonuses are actually powers you get during the rest of the game, which allows you to alter the rules of the game, like placing domino pieces separately or not adjacent to the same kind of patterns, etc. At the end of the game, the same king domino scoring is applied, where crowns are multiplied to the area and bonuses are tallied up, and the player with the most points wins. So while this game is called King Domino Duel, this feels different enough. It's not just King Domino, because there is that added factor of trying to race to the bonus, which essentially breaks the game. I love this game so much because of that. I already think King Domino alone in roll and write fashion is great, but add the layer of the superpowers and you have a really awesome game. Best of all, it's cheap with big chunky dice. You might want to consider though whether it will hit the table often for you because it's only for 2 players, kaya nga duel eh. But for me, personally, I love 2-player games, so it doesn't take points off for this game. The next type of roll and write games are route building games. The first one of this type is Let's Make a Bus Route from Sashi and Sashi, which I picked up in Japan. By the way, guys, I have a tip for you. If you want to get your hands on some of the Japanese board games, check out Amazon Japan. They ship worldwide, so I got a couple of games from there, and I was surprised at the shipping cost, which was probably like 300 pesos per game. It was so cheap. It also arrived super fast, maybe just a couple of days. It's definitely cheaper than shipping from the US because, well, it's nearer. So I got in front of the elevators from Sashi and Sashi and Metro X, which is another roll and write game. Anyway, moving on. Let's Make a Bus Route is a route building game. I already discussed it in length during a previous episode, but what I love about this game is the simplicity and the fact that everything was thought of. I played this with different types of people, and I found that other people want to do it properly and try not to cause too much traffic, but other people will just try to score as much points as possible, even if they end up causing so much traffic, as long as they get to maximize their points. So this is probably the difference between Japanese and Filipino bus drivers. So the next game is Railroad Inc. In this game, your goal is to connect as many exits in your board as possible. You do this by drawing the dice rolled, which sets out different patterns in either train track or highway form. Train tracks can only connect to train tracks and highway can only connect to highway, unless these tracks are connected by a station, which lets you end that kind of route. So the more exits you connect in one big route earns you more points. You also get points for getting to the middle, and you can also use certain super roads that lets you connect from all 4 sides. You get deductions for incomplete routes, and the player with the most points wins. What's interesting about this game is that it comes in 2 versions, which gives you a different kind of expansion. I'm not that familiar with the expansions because I haven't played both versions, but from what I gather, the expansion that comes with the deep blue version is more inclusive and completing, but the one that comes in the red version is more destructive of the routes. So what I can say about this game is that it burned my head in a good way. Since you can start at different parts of the board, you can have different exits open up, and at the middle of the game, you just have to focus in closing them out. And since the patterns are random, you can get stuck with a pattern that does not fit in your existing scheme, forcing you to open up another exit. So it's very brain burny, but I like it a lot. Another route building game that I have yet to play is Dizzle. Very excited to get that one. The last type is probably the type that I've played the most games of, Eurolight games. Eurolight games, because whatever Euro game they want to put out in a roll and write fashion, will necessarily be limited by that genre. Also, some Euro games have these roll and write implementations like Castles of Burgundy, Imperial Settlers, and Fleet. The first one in this list is Roll Through the Ages, which I've also previously discussed in another episode. While probably one of the oldest roll and write games, I must say that this game still holds up against some of the newer implementations of the genre. Really good resource management roll and write game, and something you should consider if you want more theme and meat in your roll and write games. The next game is Castles of Burgundy, the dice game. I've mentioned in the previous episode that Castles of Burgundy is now a contender to be one of my favorite games of all time, and the same goes for the dice game, which is a contender to be one of my favorite roll and write games. In Castles of Burgundy, the goal is to get the most points as well by filling in different colored regions on your sheet. So in each turn, 5 dice are rolled, one representing a timer of the game, and 2 numbered dice and 2 colored dice. So each player will pick one set consisting of one number and one color and mark this on their sheet. Just like in Castles of Burgundy, it must be adjacent to your starting castle, so forth and so on. The colored hexes have different rules in filling them in. And filling them in will earn you certain bonuses, like monks or workers, which lets you change the number or color. You can also get silver to get more actions. So at the end of the game, you tally your points from the different hexes you completed, and the player with the most points wins. Of course, it's not literally Castles of Burgundy, but it comes pretty close and gives me the same feeling. Although the choices are limited because you only have 4 sets to choose from, but if you think about it, in original Castles of Burgundy, your choices are similarly limited by the dice you rolled. So it really gives me this similar feeling. What I can say about this game though is that it's a bit harder to teach, especially coming from a player familiar with Castles of Burgundy, because they will always try to make the connection which is not there. But taken as it is a very good Euro light roll and write game, and this one will stay in my collection for a very long time. The next game in this genre is Corinth from Days of Wonder. Corinth is basically a dice drafting set collection game. Each turn, dice are rolled and they are arranged in a central board representing the goods you can get for that value. And players take turns drafting the dice rolled and marking them off in their sheets. You're trying to complete a certain set of goods that will give you points. Another layer of the game is if you don't want to mark off the goods, you can also use the number on the dice to move your worker in a root portion of your sheet to earn bonuses. You can also get mules and coins to build buildings that will give you powers or endgame bonuses. So at the end of the game, the player with the most points in the sets collected and bonuses earned in the root wins the game. This is probably the most meh of the roll and writes I've recently played. I think it's because the 2 layers, the set collection and the root part, felt half-baked to me. Imagine the traveler part of Coimbra, which was very interesting in that game, and make it simpler 10 times. That's the second layer of the game. The set collection was also very simple and felt almost meaningless. Also, the buildings were too easy to get, and you didn't really feel like that excited once you get the buildings. So this game, I can live without, but I'm glad I got the chance to try it to get my fix. The next game is Welcome To. In Welcome To, you are basically trying to create your town, and instead of rolling dice, you flip cards with the one number on one side and the kind of structure in another side. Structures can be pools, walls, etc., which have their own scoring rules. Welcome To's gameplay is basically Quinto advanced. You're also trying to complete rows with numbers, but there are other bonuses you need to consider. For example, you can make estates by separating certain portions of the row with a wall. And certain bonus cards require a number of estate in varying sizes. And if you're the first one to complete it, you get that bonus. There are different scoring rules to consider, and you really don't know the best strategy to win since I've tried different ones, but I've yet to find the foolproof one. What I like about this game is the ability to support more players in one go, because play is simultaneous. But since play is simultaneous and no dice is rolled, there's also less interaction than in Quinto. But that said, I really enjoy this game because of the different combo bonuses you have to think of to maximize your points. It also feels very different, and it does not seem like just another implementation of a Euro game. It's a bit more complicated to teach, but it'll be easy once players are familiar with the Quinto mechanic. Other games I'm looking forward to in this type of roll and write is Fleet the Dice game and Steam Rollers. But what I'm most excited about, which I just got last week, is Imperial Settlers Roll and Write. Even though it's been getting lukewarm reviews, I just have to say that I bought it in the middle of trying it. That's how excited I was playing it, so I'm really looking forward to playing my own copy. So before I tell you my favorite of each type, I just want to quickly tell you the DIY project I've been doing with my roll and write games. So basically, I got this idea from Adrian, who also taught me Imperial Settlers Roll and Write. Shout out to Adrian. And he showed me that all of his roll and write games were laminated and placed in one box. Then he can take with him during game nights. This way, he does not need to bring all, but he basically has all of them with him. So I got obsessed with making my own roll and write bag. But the thing is, I did not want to cannibalize my existing roll and write boxes. So I got a laminator and I laminated a couple of sheets depending on the maximum number of players per game. I got dry erase markers from Lazada and I got a couple of dice to substitute the dice in the boxes. So I basically remade the games. All the sheets are in one bag and the dry erase markers and all the dice I have are in a Geek on Dice bag. And that's something I carry around every week just in case I want to play a roll and write game. I'm very proud of this roll and write bag I made. So with that said, what are my favorite roll and write games? For abstract number games, my favorite is still Quinto because I love the player interaction in this game and it does not overstay its welcome, even with a full player count of 6. Don't get me wrong, I love Ganshon Clever and I'm also falling in love with Twice as Clever, Doppelt, but I think I prefer playing them through the app. For spatial games, my favorite is King Domino Duel because of the player interaction and how it does not frustrate me as much as Brick does. I also love Second Chance, but I wanted to pick just one from this type and my pick is King Domino Duel. For route building games, although I really like my play of Railroad Inc., my favorite is still Let's Make a Bus Route because of the simplicity of the gameplay but overall deep design that went into making it. And for Eurolight game, this is the hardest one for me because I like all of them equally except for Corinth, but the winner would be Castles of Burgundy the dice game. I have to play the others though because they are highly regarded by some of the board game reviewers I follow. But from the ones I've tried, I really love Castles of Burgundy the dice game. So those are my favorite roll and write games. How about you guys? Have you tried a lot of roll and write games lately? I've been really obsessed with this genre and I've actually played quite a few more. And I have so many other roll and write games that are lined up because we play one roll and write every G Live game night. So if you have your own favorites, please do let me know. You can get in touch with me through Facebook, Instagram, or Gmail. With that segment done, let's now go to the next segment from the meeple. So in my last episode, I asked the meeples, who do you usually play with? Do you categorize your gaming groups to determine the games you play during game night? Tunichi said, family. Bare minimum is with my son. But our game library has 3-player minimum games or games that work well at 3 players. So we pull in my wife. Every other weekend, we typically play with my wife's family. Given that I have only one constant play group, the games we have are tailored to fit that group. So family. So very family-friendly games. But I know Tonichi also likes not family-friendly games. I don't think Root is family-friendly. So Tonichi, let us know how you've taught that to your family. Jericho said, wag natin pansinin si Jericho because nasabi lang niya ay, what do you mean broke? Yes, I am broke, Jericho. Johansson said, yeah, I do that. The games I bring in the office is different from the games I bring to my play group since they're much lesser time playing at the office. Yes, I agree. During office days, you probably only have lunchtime or maybe after office inumans to play. And also for me, I kind of limit it with party games. So, for example, if there's a lot of people that I'll be playing with in the office, I usually bring party games with me. But I also have a smaller board game group in the office where we can play more complex games. But yes, I agree that it's different. Archie said, mostly the wifey, so mostly medium weight games. She recently liked La Granja. My usual gaming group plays thematic games mostly, and if new recruits, quote-unquote, are invited, the simple but elegant games like Splendor that got most of us into the hobby. I said, I'm a fan of couples playing games. Yes, I am a big fan of couples who like heavy games because I'm really curious at who influenced who. And I'm just interested in a relationship where they are both into board games because I don't see it often. Tonichi said this is unrelated. Well, it's related to the random thought that I gave during the last episode. Sabi niya, woot, daming shout out. Sige na, I'll take on the task of teaching you the estates before you make a purchase. Please, because it's on pre-order and I'm really thinking about it. Personally, I only have one constant gaming group, so labels aren't necessary. But to be honest, I too don't like using labels on people. It just contributes to seeing those not in the same category as other. Shout out to Philo class. Gaming na nga lang may division pa. Labels for game, yes, people know. And a big thank you for Cosmic Encounter. We really liked it after 2 plays, using only green aliens. More plays soon, but I think we need the incursion already to bump it up to 6 players. 2 hours just whisked by with all the wheeling and dealing. And reinforcing the deal timer just kicks up the tension. I love it. So, Tonichi, you're welcome. For those who have just joined us here, we actually ran a giveaway, I think a couple of months back. And Tonichi won Cosmic Encounter from my call pile. So, I'm really glad that you're enjoying the game, Tonichi. Jason said, pwede po ba ma-discuss Tiny Epic series? Medyo naging interested ako sa kanya since may nabasa ako na medyo full-fledged board game on the go siya, but quite confused what to get since lahat ata siya iba-iba. Similarities niya lang ata is yung pagiging portable niya. I said I wasn't that familiar with all of the games in the Tiny Epic series. The only one that I've played is Tiny Epic Galaxies, which I very much enjoyed and is still in my collection. I've heard good things about Tiny Epic Zombies though, and that one I'm very, very interested in because it's a cooperative game, and I like cooperative games, unlike some of the people that I know. So if you guys know more about the Tiny Epic series, please do chime in. Jason's message is in episode 12 in On Deck's Facebook page. So, the question for this episode is, I've already said it, what is your favorite roll and write game? Do you like roll and write games? Why or why not? And that is going to wrap up another jam-packed episode. Hope you guys enjoy the discussions. If you like this episode, please share it to someone you think will like it too. And if you would like to hear or see more from us, please subscribe to our show in any of the different podcatchers you are using or follow us on Instagram at TheBoardGamerPH. Don't forget we do a live stream of our game night every Tuesday night on both the Gaming Library and On Deck Facebook accounts. And finally, for any feedback, comment, questions, or if you would like to share your personal story as a board game collector, please do send that across to theboardgamerph@gmail.com or www.facebook.com/theboardgamerph, and we will talk about it in a future episode. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Tune in again next time, next week. It will be my top 30 favorite board games of all time. Watch out for that. Okay, thanks. Bye.